Okay, day 4. This is when it starts getting interesting, right? These thoughts do not mean anything. They are like the things that I see, right? In this room, in this place, through this window, on this street, etc. So instead of looking at the stuff around you when you hear thoughts come up, sit with it for just a minute and then apply this idea. This thought doesn't mean anything. Ooh. So, you want to choose a variety of thoughts, right? You don't just want to pick like a good thought or a bad thought. The reality is there aren't good or bad thoughts. There's truths and untruths, right? But again, if the thought doesn't mean anything, there's also not truth or untruth. There's not good or bad. There's not any of that. So separate the idea is to separate the meaningless, which is everything outside of you, from the meaningful, which is inside of you, right? And it's really important that you're not spending all day ruminating with this because it will get overwhelming. So just do it a couple, like a few, 3-4 times throughout the course of day 4. So you want to, if you're aware of a thought pattern, a shadow side that comes up, something like that, it's a good thing to use for an example of that because you know that it's coming up. You know that's something that you're thinking pretty often, and to apply this concept to it will be really helpful in the idea of separating that as the meaningless and outside of you, right? This thought has no meaning, right? It doesn't mean anything. What matters is that what is really meaningful is inside of you, and these thought patterns are really like covering over our true thoughts and feelings, right? So these thoughts don't mean anything. Let's go 3 or 4 times throughout the course of the day. And my question for you is, what resistance do you have at this time, just hearing this? What resistance do you have? And then if you're not facing any resistance, hearing this video, and then you go through the day and you meet some resistance with these thoughts, then I'm curious about that as well, right? Or if this was just like, oh, these thoughts don't have any meaning, of course they don't, this makes total sense to me, I would love to hear that as well, because I already know that there's some resistance for me, like, no, my thoughts are meaningful, right? Like, I've already found myself having to separate a little bit from my ego and really apply these thoughts already, and we're only on day 4, so I am super curious how this is going to go. Oh, it's also important to note that they said this practice, today's practice, will come up maybe in a slightly different format, but will come up multiple times throughout the 365 days of the workbook. So that's another reason why you don't have to go too deep into it all day today, because you're going to end up hearing this idea again and thinking about this again throughout the course in Miracles. Okay, so go back, do the meditation as well, once in the morning, once in the evening, just once a day, whatever strikes your fancy. Make sure you're journaling as you're going through these days. What came up for you each time you do this practice. So, super curious how it's going for you. Let me know. And I love you all. Have a beautiful day 4.